Hey everyone, Anthony here, and today, thanks to viewer requests, we're going to have a quick look at callables. No, we're going to have a look at callbacks, which involve callables, but we'll get there in a second. So I'll preface this by saying callbacks are powerful, and they're powerfully dangerous, so please read the documentation. It's much better at explaining the nuance of some of this stuff than I'll ever be in a short, like 15-minute video, but we'll see how far we get. Now, the first thing is for anyone, we'll just run through the basics of what the callbacks are meant to do, and we're going to demonstrate that using ye old write node. So you would have seen these slots here before, the before render and all these other kind of things. So let's just actually make ourselves a fairly primitive callback system. So I've got a checkerboard here, which is not important. We're going to write the frame somewhere. Stuff. Yeah, as you see, I've got junk everywhere. So in the write node, we're able to put a piece of Python that runs at certain points in time. So obviously before the render. So we're going to be annoying and just go nuke message. Message hi. So that's before the render. Before each frame, we're going to say about to do a frame, and then after render, we're just going to say done. Obviously, you can put something everywhere here. Let's not go nuts. Done. And because I'm in Nuke non-commercial, I gotta remember to change the root format back down to HD. Okay, so I have my write node. I have my callback set up effectively, and we're just going to hit the render button, and we're going to do 3 frames. So we said hi once, we said we're about to do the frame. Note that the rendering progress dialog only popped up after I pressed hi. 1, 2, 3, and we're done. All right. So that is essentially the callback concept. It's a piece of code or something that does some work that is triggered by the machine. Like it's not you pressing a button, it's an event that occurs and it does something for us, right? So that's kind of it. Now, if we wanted to explore this a bit more, there's a lot of events that occur within a Nuke session. So you'd expect there to be a lot of potential places you want to hook callbacks in. And you'd be right. There is a whole bunch of stuff. I mean, these obviously removed, but there's add onCreate, onDestroy, scripts close, script load. So I would say, please read the docs for them because there are nuances here that I'm not going to get into because this is just a general broad brushstroke thing. But in order to demonstrate it, we're going to look at one of the more straightforward events, which is script load. So in general, we'll clear that up. When loading a script, for me, a lot of the times I'm coming in as a technical troubleshooter. So I'm just going to put down some things here, like a grade and a transform and a viewer. So this may be a script that someone passes me, and obviously everything's fine here. But what I tend to have in my personal menu.py, not in pipeline, this is just my personal one, is I will aggressively delete viewers because this script here is going to be loaded and I just want to see the nodes and I want to start poking around, understanding what's going on. I do not want a viewer starting to render because it will start fetching files off the network. It'll start calculating things. It can be kind of expensive and I'm not interested in pixels at that point. So I have an onScriptLoad callback that throws away viewers. So we'll do that now. So what have we got? Actually, we won't throw away viewers. We'll just pretend we're going to throw away a viewer, right? Because you can all delete stuff. We're going to make an annoying message. So nuke message. I have loaded the script. This is a useless call, but it's nice. It throws it in our face, right? So that's what we want, and it's going to be annoying. So the callback we're after is onScriptLoad. So I know this because I've used this a lot of time. So we want to add onScriptLoad, right? You can check the help for this guy. Good practice. Add code to execute when a script is loaded. Okay, cool. So we'll do the naive thing and do this here. There we go. and it's going to complain. That's the very first thing that you might go, wait, what? How do I use callbacks? So on the right node, we just put in Python code. This has made it easy for us, really. But in practice, this is what you're going to be doing. You'll get this error here. It'll say, call must be a callable. Translated to English is that you wanted to provide this with a function to run. Many things can be callables, but for our purposes, it's going to be a function. So you need to define a function. I did call it annoying, didn't I? Annoying callback. All right, it's a function, and it will just throw the message up. Now, callable in this sense means that it's something you can run and it will do stuff. Right? There's again more detail to this, but let's try this now. So I've defined the annoying callback. Yeah, and then we just add it here. All right. So I've now assigned this callback, assigned to the onScriptLoad event a callback, which I've called annoying callback, and it will print the message, I have loaded the script. So let's just make sure we've done the work here. So I've got my demo script here. I'm going to save it, save compas, stuff, sure. Yes, as before, I'm going to now clear this, and I'm going to reopen this script. So file, open comp, it's behind my head, but you know, where is this? Oh, I must have saved on the desktop. I'll just use my recent files. Open recent comp there. And what the? I've broken something. Oh, I'll explain this in a second. Let me pause and reset a few things. So, continuing in my tradition of actually showing all my stuff ups, I had actually been playing with this earlier and I'd actually made a mistake. So I had registered multiple callbacks. So pretend everything was fine and I just did this. All right, so I've registered that callback. Let's try that recent comp thing again. So I've opened it up and it's run this. Okay, so that is the essence of it. Now, what I would tend to do is have this in my menu.py. So we'll just quickly nip over to that. All right, so here in my .nuke area, let's just save this initially as menu.py, and it will look like this. Def, there we go. That's literally it. So I'll save menu.py. I will close Nuke and we'll reopen it, and we won't have to run any of this stuff in the script editor. So this is where I would shove things here, and instead of doing Nuke message, what I'm going to do is this nuke.allNodes class viewer. So I'm going to grab all the nodes that are viewers, and then for x, x I use as the throwaway. So x in, there's a couple I use as throwaway, x, y, z, all sorts of stuff. If I see myself using them, basically it means this contains no valuable information. Use it wherever you want. Don't store anything good in it. Just, it's very temporary. So for a thing in the Nuke loads, we'll just delete the viewer. Great. Save as my menu.py. It's not annoying, but you know. So I'm going to quit Nuke and close that back up, and then start Nuke again. And yes, I had prepared this earlier, so I know there's nothing dodgy on the screen. This is a friend's dog, really cute. That is an awesome outfit, by the way. That's in person. It's got sparkles, like sparkles. So I'm going to open up my stuff thing, and you'll notice I didn't get an annoying message, but the viewer is not there. So that is an onScriptLoad callback. Now, remember I mentioned there are multiple events. So let's file, right. So I've just got the file path for this one. So I'm going to do a file insert comp nodes, and we're just going to insert the comp nodes. Note there's a viewer here. So when you insert comp nodes like this, this is a different event that occurs, right? So really you're not doing a script load because, well, you're not. which gives you a lot of power to choose when you do and don't do things, but also you may get angle tapped by things like this. So we'll demonstrate this by creating a onCreate callback. New callbacks, and then add onCreate. So that's one of them, and the other one is add onUserCreate. So what we'll do is we'll define two functions and we'll just patch one into each. So def onCreate, and then we'll just print out onCreate fired with, and then we'll just print the name of the node. All right, so nothing too exciting. And we'll do the same thing for userCreate. So onUserCreate, onUserCreate fired. All right, so I'm just gonna select these things, Control Enter, but what have I missed? I've missed a close bracket. Try that again. All right, and then we're going to add onCreate to onCreate and onUserCreate to onUserCreate. Okay, so this now should have them. Now I'm gonna just move into the node graph and just make a transform node. Okay, so you see I've got onUserCreate fired and then onCreate fired. All right, so both of them occur, but you'll notice there's I had the same code here, Nuke this node full name. That has a slightly different result. Another curious thing. Delete that. I'm going to clear my script. Actually, make it even more obvious. I'm going to clear my script here. Notice onCreate fired for root. So what we're seeing here is the difference between onCreate and onUserCreate. onUserCreate is anything that I do explicitly. So I'm going to create a merge. So I've made a merge, which is great. So it's going to fire the onUserCreate and onCreate as well. Notice we'll get to the difference in the name in a second. All right, so I'm now going to insert, so actually no, we're going to open a comp. We're going to open the old comp here. Clear U, don't worry about that. File, open recent comp stuff, no to the autosave. Oh wow. Yeah, that's okay. Let me get rid of that quickly. It's because I've got some active code for some callbacks and stuff. Let's just insert comp nodes. Insert comp nodes, and then let me pause and restart Nuke so I can avoid this non-commercial limit. So yeah, what was happening was the in my code here, because I've got an all nodes call, every time I load the script, it's picking up more than 10, it's picking up like 5 nodes, so run it twice and that exceeds the 10 node limit. So go back to here, let's just restore what we had. I defined these two functions and I assigned them as callbacks. Right. So close that one, file, insert, let's open recent comp, so I'll open this one. No to the autosave. Okay, so you can see onCreate has fired, onUserCreate hasn't. The viewer's gone though, so that onScriptLoad has occurred, so it's thrown out the viewer. onCreate has occurred, which has gone checkerboard grade, transform viewer, right one root. Wait, viewer? Huh. So you can sort of see there is an ordering of how things occur as well. So these are all important concepts and where they get a little bit mucky. So you'll need to poke around with the documentation, play around with it and get a sense of what's going on. In this case, what's happened is, I'll sit up straight. What's happened is the event stack has occurred is that first things happened is Nuke's gone, ooh, okay, we're opening the script. So it started the onScript loading process, okay, but much like the write node, there's a before and after render, before and after frame. Our event does not occur until the script has completed loading. All right, so it's not at the beginning of the load, it's at the aftermath of the load, which kind of makes sense because if we fired it before the script loaded, then there's nothing to do really. We need to still wait for Nuke to finish script loading, so that's why it's logical. So when the script is opened, it's loaded. When it's in the process of loading, every single one of these nodes here is created. But I'm not creating them, Nuke is creating them. That's why we're getting the onCreate occurring. All right, so it's creating the checkerboard, the grade, the transform, the viewer, the write. It's now finished making all these, well, there's an extra viewer here which you can't see. It's finished making all the nodes that were defined in the script. It's now then created the root node, which is kind of like the container for the session. Right, so that's all the things we have. Then it's gone, hey, my script load's complete. Right, now what? Ooh, I have a callback to run. And it's run my callback, which is gone. For every node you have here, just like kill it all. You know, so, and that's not every node. For every node you just look for the viewer and then throw out the viewer. So that's why we get this particular behavior. So there is interesting ordering to all this stuff. So yeah, I hope that helps a little bit with the concept of callbacks in Nuke. Like I said many times, it is a pretty complex kind of area. They're the kind of things that get confusing and messy. In fact, let me ponder. Well, okay, so there's two things I probably should mention. The first thing I'm going to mention is that I have not shown you how to remove callbacks. I'll do that with a caveat saying that generally in most cases, adding and removing I'll do as a developer and mucking around and playing with stuff, but that's only because I'm slightly lazy. I just want to do things quickly and I know exactly what I'm doing. Removing callbacks dynamically can be fraught unless you know exactly what you're doing, because it's like treat it like the OCIO config. When you start Nuke, you have a particular color configuration. If you were to dynamically rip that out and change it halfway through your session, I don't know if I'd trust what I'm looking at. Like, you know, your colors are gonna change, and it's strange. Like, for example, if I had a callback that was doing some sanitization, like when a node gets created, it checks if there's problems because I know there's an issue with a particular setting on a ZD focus or something, and wipes them out. Like, those are the kind of things that sort of are baseline things for your Nuke session. You don't want to have those things change on you dynamically. So yeah, but having said that, since you're here, might as well show you how to remove stuff. Removing is the first thing you'll probably see is the add onCreate. In fact, yeah, we'll go for this one. So the reason this is the second reason why I don't really do removals. So obviously there's remove here. So we're going to do remove, and it's logical, the onCreate, right? So, you know, same thing. We can do this with onCreate here. So remove onCreate. And if you look at the help for this before I run that. Okay. Remove a previously added callback with the same arguments. Now, I provided, where are we? I provided this call, so this should work. So if we get rid of, rerun that one, cool. If I just mash the G button and create a bunch of grades, I've only got the onUserCreate. I don't have the onCreate anymore. So that's really nice and straightforward. Okay. How do I remove this one? So you have to know how to get to this annoying callback thing to provide it. So that's the first challenge. The second challenge is this. I'm going to assign two of them. That's also called annoying callback. So we're going to clear this, and we're going to open the comp, No, I've loaded the script again, right? So it has actually run this particular annoying callback, and it's also deleted the viewer that was here. So it's actually got two callbacks. Let's say we didn't want to delete the viewer, and for some crazy reason we liked having a message pop up. How do we do it? Because both of them are called annoying callback now. So to poke around a bit further, what happens is onScriptLoads. Right. So there is this thing here, onScript. Note it's S. There's an S here. So there's this variable here within the Nuke callbacks module called onScriptLoads, and you can actually see there's got our two copies of our function. They are slightly different here. You can see this. That's going to be really hard to. Let's do this here. Okay, so I'm just going to put down this grade. Geez, too many hotkeys. So on this grade, I'm just gonna, if you remember from the top node video, grade 2, this thing here is its nice name. This thing here is its horrible name, but that's its real name. It's kind of its, consider it's like it's a word of power. If you know its true name, you can exert ultimate control over it. If I copy and paste it, you'll see this is different. This is BDC00, BE000. So they perform the exact same function, but they have different identifiers, right? So this is exactly what's happening here. These two functions they're both effectively doing the same thing, but because they have different identifiers, you need a way to tell Nuke which of these two to get rid of. And in this case, I could just pass this function here because this function has the correct identifier with it, right? But how the heck am I going to get this one? Because it's got the same name. So that's where the removal becomes somewhat difficult. You don't actually have to do it that way. You can manipulate this because all this is a dictionary that tells Nuke, if you're going to run the onScriptLoad callback, please just go through everything in this list. So let's just do it this way. So for the script onScriptLoad for the root node, which is where these ones happen to live, again, more detail which you'll find out the more you play around with this stuff. There is two, if you remember, these square brackets indicate there's a list, so there's two callbacks that are going to fire. Don't worry about this other stuff here. Again, more detail. When you get into it, you'll need to understand this, but for our purposes, just ignore that one. So for callback, print callback, and we'll just put a new line at the top of it, just so it's easy. So you can see there are two callbacks here. It's just a list, so you can manipulate it. So what you can do is this kind of malarkey. So I'm saying the root callback is equal to the callbacks on the root, the callbacks for onScriptLoads event on the root is equal to the callbacks for the onScriptLoads event for the root. That. So it is basically set the list of callbacks to run to be what you had, but from the first one onwards. So it's going to basically retain this one. It's going to throw away this here. All right. So we'll do that. That's a script load, so I need to load a script again. Clear file, open, come on. Nope. And yes, it has come up with this annoying message, but it hasn't deleted the viewer, and it hasn't complained at me being in Nuke non-commercial, which is another sign it worked. So what this is demonstrating as well is the order in which these callbacks are registered, and it does make sense once you logically go through it, because the first thing that happened was it went through and read by menu.py. So it's the first callback that was registered, and then when we went back to the Nuke session, we added this through the script editor, so it's the second one that's in there. And when we did this, we just said bounce the first one out. bounce the very first callback you had and just keep everything after that. So obviously the very first thing it picked up was my menu.py, and it threw out that. So yeah, I would probably, look, I'm not gonna say don't do this, but be advised when you do this what you're doing and why you're doing it. I do this when I'm jamming away and when I'm deving. I will always do this kind of stuff just because I can be doing it quickly, but I'll have an eye on how this is going to be integrated into pipeline properly, and I'll test it properly. But often you don't want to tear down Nuke and start it again 20 times just to make it work. You just want to understand how the system holds together, poke it, make sure it's roughly right, and then verify it later down. So yeah, callbacks themselves are a fairly complex area of discussion, so I'd encourage you, please ask questions. I've barely scratched the surface of this. If you've got a specific thing you want to achieve with callbacks, please chuck it in the comments, and it may be something that's worth me just taking a brief from someone and just showing you how I'd approach the problem live. It may be interesting, don't know. So yeah, let us know how you go, and obviously you will break many things this way. Don't worry about it. Just make sure you know how to disable them by deleting them, or taking that little Python module that registers all of them and just turn it off somehow. Just make sure you have a way to undo the damage you've caused, and everything should be fine. All right, talk to you guys later.